Awesome. Awesome. It's so lovely to see you all here today. We got students, we got new faces. Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to our call. This is a call that's normally reserved for our Cannabis Institute students. And so you're all joining some of our beautiful, amazing students on this call. Okay,
Oh,
so let's talk about how this call is going to go. We're going to run through how to run a cannabis coaching session from start to finish. And then at the end, we'll have some time for questions about that. One thing I do want to say right off the top is that neither Corinne or I are healthcare practitioners. We're not lawyers, we're not doctors. None of this that we're going to share with you is medical or legal advice. We are sharing what we have learned in our journey with this plant and doing this work. And now we can introduce ourselves. So have at our CT.
hi, I'm Corinne Tobias, and I am the founder of Wake and Bake and the Cannabis Institute. Welcome, everybody. Some of you might have found this from Instagram. Some of you might have come from my Wake and Bake email list. And I've been doing this work for over 13 years. And I started Wake and Bake in 2012. And about 3 years in is when I experienced what I like to call like the avalanche of people just coming at me with question after question on how this plant works, how to use this plant for health, different conditions. And I was making cookbooks. I was doing recipe development. I thought I had figured out that the world needed this one thing, this one way of getting help with cannabis, which is making your own stuff. At the time, the dispensary shelves were just full of crap, right? They were full of garbage. And I was like, there's a better way. And I would go online, and every time I would look something up, there were forums with these trolls fighting. No, this is the temperature of decarb. No, this is the way to do it. And it was so confusing and overwhelming. And I was like, no, I'm going to figure out something simple and I'm going to share it with people so they can make their own medicine. And I thought that's my contribution to the world. And I realized when people started asking for help that there was obviously a bigger need there that I, at the first, did not want to fill. I did not want to fill the gap. I was like, hey, go ask your doctor about this. And they would come back or they would say immediately, like, I've talked to my doctor about this. My doctor doesn't understand. My doctor doesn't want to talk about it. My doctor doesn't know anything about this plant. And he says, go talk to a bud tender. So even if you had a doctor who was friendly to cannabis, they would say, okay, yeah, no, I'll recommend this plant for you. Now go talk to somebody else about it at the dispensary. And they would go do that. And they would tell me time and time again, I spent hundreds of dollars on my first visit. They told me to use all these different products. I left feeling more confused than I started. And I'm not getting the relief that I'm looking for, or I still don't know how to use this as a medicine. And so I started doing a ton of research and decided to fill that gap. I became trained as a health coach and I started combining everything that I had learned in cannabis from all of the research to help people and support people in this way and became a cannabis coach. Right? It was just a default term that I used because I was like, I'm a coach and I work with cannabis. I'm going to put those things together and start doing this work out in the world. Now, not too long into that, I realized that there were so many more people that needed help than I could help. So I had a toddler at the time. I could maybe take 3 or 4 clients at a time, and I couldn't help all the people that needed it. And so when a couple of women landed in my inbox and told me, "I want to do this. Do you have outlines? Do you have the stuff that I would need to go do this?" I was like, "Yeah, I have all that stuff." And the Cannabis Institute was born. And so in that first cohort, I think there were about 35 people. Andrea was one of them in our first cohort at the Cannabis Institute, which was back then the Cannabis Coaching Institute. And they all decided they were going to fill this gap as well. We've now been doing this for 8 years. We've trained over 700 coaches. The program is now internationally accredited by the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine. And that's my story.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. Because then in 2018, I had a life-changing experience with cannabis, and I had the exact experience that Corinne said. I went to my doctor, they didn't help. The cannabis doctor didn't help, and then the bud tenders also didn't help, and I didn't know what to do. And I found it really frustrating and annoying. And so I found the Cannabis Institute, looking online and decided to sign up. And I didn't know what I was going to do with this training. I wasn't sure where I was going. I actually thought I was going to own an edibles business at the end. But as soon as I was trained, because like Corinne said, She gave us everything. She gave us everything that she had that she was out doing in the world so that we could start immediately. And I did. I started immediately cannabis coaching. I also opened up a cannabis education kind of arm of my business. And since 2018, I've coached hundreds of clients. And in preparing for this meeting tonight, I was going back and looking through some of my testimonials, and it actually like made me well up a little bit. I'm not trying to be rude, but I have forgotten about some of these stories that have happened, and the impact that this work of just sharing what I have learned with other people, how impactful that has been for hundreds of people. So I am going to share some testimonials that I have throughout this presentation. I am also the program director at the Cannabis Institute, where we still continue to give you everything that we've ever made or created in our own businesses so that you can go out and do this work as well. Because, like Corinne said, there's not enough of us. There's so much need for the type of work that we do. And there's not enough people who have the training and the education and the confidence and the chutzpah to get out there and do it. So I'm glad you're all here tonight. To be part of this conversation. So here's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I just woke up to an email kind of like this morning. So, oh my gosh, you're the best. I'm finally sleeping better thanks to you. I followed your advice. I bought RSO that has no CBD. This client couldn't tolerate CBD, and she made 10 milligram capsules. She says, you're truly a lifesaver. Thank you so much. This has made an incredible difference to the quality of my life. And again, that's just me sharing information that I learned at the Cannabis Institute and other studies. Here's another one. Andrea analyzed my needs and made very successful suggestions. I mean it quite literally when I say it's because of Andrea's help that my quality of life has greatly improved. She's extremely knowledgeable, compassionate, and resourceful. One last very important point, Andrea gives her clients hope. She provides a plan, but always leaves it open to further discussion and choices as needed. And that hope for a lot of your future clients is so important because, as we'll discuss later, sometimes they have tried everything to get better and they're coming to cannabis as like a last resort at times. And it turns out that the last resort was the most helpful, healing, beautiful plant medicine that they could have tried. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about, first of all, how to keep it legal and ethical. Then we're going to dive into how to make sure that your clients are getting results. We're going to spend a lot of time on how I actually run my sessions point by point. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to attract new clients, or because we train a lot of practitioners who have their own health business outside, how to introduce this kind of work to your current clients. Okay, let's dive in with legality and ethics. We have a full module in the class because it's so important for obvious reasons. The most important reason for me was that by me having a really clear set of boundaries of things I could and couldn't do and could and couldn't say, it actually is very freeing because I know I kind of have to stay in this box, and I definitely know I'm not going to go outside of my scope of practice. So you must know your stuff. If you're going to be out there giving people hope and helping people with this cannabis plant, you better, like really understand this plant and how it works in the human body. Get yourself trained, get yourself educated. I know many people who love this plant so much because they've been using it for a long time, but that is much different than understanding and being able to explain to somebody why CBD might help their anxiety and how to take it in a way that's healthy. You should always use a contract or an agreement. Again, Corinne and I are not lawyers, but Corinne in the program has the templates for the contracts that she did get drawn up by lawyers to the tune of several $1,000s. Again, this helps me stay in my own lane, and it also helps your potential client understand your scope of practice. So make sure that's in place. You do not want to leave anything open for interpretation there. Make sure you disclaim. You heard me say at the beginning of the call, we're not healthcare practitioners or lawyers. Make sure your clients really understand that. Unless you are. We have loads of healthcare practitioners who take our class. And in that case, don't disclaim. Tell them how rad you are. And be really careful with your language. We talk a lot about this in the class, actually, about things that you can and cannot say and ways to phrase things so that you're not acting in a healthcare practitioner role. Your role in these coaching sessions is to provide the education that you have learned, so and provide it to them so that they can make appropriate decisions for their own health. So be careful with that. That kind of stuff can get us in trouble. And again, just like knowing your scope of practice. For example, just a couple of days ago, I had a request come in for me to provide a cannabis consultation to somebody, and they said in their form that they had recently been diagnosed with psychosis. That's out of my scope of practice. I can't ethically work with somebody who's suffering from that because I'm not a healthcare practitioner. However, if somebody's coming to me and they're suffering from anxiety or sleeplessness or pain, those are things that I feel really comfortable with. Having all of this in place, being above board with your legality and ethics is really freeing. And although I just told you that we're not allowed to say like cannabis heals this condition or this is a medicine and we're speaking as a healthcare practitioner, this medicine is healing. The work that we do is so impactful for people. This is a gentleman I worked with who was consuming high doses of THC because he had heard that THC was good for the condition that he had. And I explained to him that we should maybe try less. So this is what he said. Since then, I've been taking in the 2 to 4 milligram range and feeling less stoned for sure, but still a sense of ease and that everything's okay. I'm slowly realizing how deep I've been affected by trauma and how dysregulated I've been for so long. Wow. That's a lot of people's experience when they get the right cannabinoids into their body. Is like, oh, I didn't know I was in such a bad place before. Okay, let's talk about how to make sure that when your client comes out of this session, that they have a pathway to feeling better. How are they going to get results? A couple of things you have to do. First one is know yourself. Even Corinne and I talked about this not too long ago, that sometimes we have our own biases and little pieces of stigma that come up and like say weird things in our head, and constantly checking yourself about what do you believe about these things and what do you believe about some of the stigma or some of the propaganda that we all have buried deep inside of us. We believe deeply at the Cannabis Institute that once you learn about the endocannabinoid system and how and why this plant works in the body, and also the history of prohibition and why we have these sticky thoughts about it, once you learn those two pieces, it's kind of really hard to feel stigmatized about this plant, but still check yourself, make sure that you know where you're at. Before I get on any cannabis coaching call, I'm not going outside and like standing on the grass, mostly because I live in Canada. I'm looking at snow piles right now, but do something to get yourself grounded and present. You're going to get on a phone call or a Zoom with a client who really needs your help, and like rushing into the call, 2 minutes before it starts isn't the right energy. I also have a little note that I have printed at the top of my template that I use when I'm talking to clients. And it just reminds me like this work that I'm doing is important. I can make a really big difference in this person's life, so that I remember to like be present with the client. As a cannabis coach, you have a couple of additional roles besides teaching about CBG and what it might be good for. You need to be able to hold space safely for people and build trust around and speak possibility into this medicine. Remember the client I said before, like I gave them some hope? Being able to talk about what this plant is able to do without making medical claims can be really helpful for your clients. And you can take this in a couple of different ways. You can be really into the energy of plant medicine or the spiritual side. You can take this more into the science focused side, but letting your client know that the reason that you took them as a client is because you believe that cannabis can be helpful for whatever they're trying to alleviate. That's a beautiful place for many clients to start out with. And even if you're not like into the woo, for example, we know just from the placebo effect that if people think that the medicine that they take is going to make them feel better, it can actually help. So make sure you're doing that. And then, of course, the most important thing is to actively listen when you're on the call with them and to ask a bunch of guided questions. We're going to go through those in a couple of minutes, but making sure that you're you're kind of steering the conversation in the right way while actually really hearing what they're saying. Because again, this might be the first time that anyone has listened to them, like has really heard what they're going through. And your clients might be worried. This is a client that I had after cannabis was fully legalized in Canada, probably like a couple years into it. And she came to me and she said, originally, when I considered doing a cannabis consultation with Andrea, I was concerned about the stigma associated with cannabis use. I also wondered about the cost. I soon realized my health was more important. Andrea is very supportive and knowledgeable. In many ways, I look back and realize how much more this consultation has done versus all my trips to doctors and specialists. I love the recipes Andrea gave me to make my own and more economical cannabis oil. I'm going to come back to this woman in a little bit because she lives in my town and I have something to share with you about this later. But I remember when I was meeting with her that she was telling me, she's like, yeah, but I'm scared of like, the bad stuff that's going to happen to me, or I'm scared of like what my neighbors might think if they smell me decarbing this in the oven. And I was like, but Lisa, who cares? It's legal here. There's nothing that can happen. And she still had all this fear about it. So you have to be there to hold space and to hold their hand and walk them through it. All right, we're getting into the meat and potatoes part of the presentation here. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I do with my clients from when they book a consultation with me until the very end of the session. So before the call, I have clients fill out a pretty detailed intake form. This is how I had that potential client where he was telling me about the psychosis diagnosis. That's why I know that, is because when I'm asking them to book with me, they have to kind of give me some information, and that intake form comes in really helpful later on. And when they're booking, I give them detailed information on exactly what they're going to get with the service so that there's no miscommunication down the line. In our program, we give you everything that you need in order to run a 2-session cannabis coaching program. And it's important to know that this is highly customizable. You can make this into a longer program. If you're a healthcare practitioner or you have some health adjacent business and you already have clients who you're working with on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, this can all be adapted to that. We don't recommend doing anything less than a 2-session consultation, just because there is a lot of information that clients need, and hand holding and guidance. And being able to meet with them at least twice is really helpful. So when they book with me, they know that they're going to get an initial phone consultation. Mine usually lasts about 30 or 40 minutes. And then they're going to get a detailed cannabis guide. And in the guide, I'm going to write out everything for them that we talked about on the phone. That's really relieving for a lot of my clients. They think that like they have to like take notes, but it turns out I'm taking crazy notes and I type them up and give them to them. So that guide has everything that we talked about in case there was things that they need to refer back to. I also research dispensaries and products for them and give them ideas of what products I think would be best for them to start with. We also talk about in the guide initial starting doses. In my guide, I say right at the top, I'm not a doctor. These initial starting doses are based on research and science. So we start with that. In the guide, it also tells them about how they should be feeling if the medicine is working, and how they shouldn't be feeling if they've taken too much THC. And I also give them information on how to change their dose, how to know when they should change their dose. In my session, following the first call, the client gets 8 weeks of email support. You can also do text support or short phone call support. It does take, for most of my clients, 4 to 8 weeks in order to dial in on a dose that feels good for them, and for them to feel confident that they know what to do and how to move forward with this medicine. Again, you could make this longer if you wanted to, but for me, 8 weeks seems to work really well. And they also get a follow-up call within that 8 weeks. So they can book it at any time in case emailing or texting is too onerous and they want to have an actual conversation. So that's what happens when they book the call with me. And you're going to want to take what they did, what they gave you, and really work on making this personal for them. We know that everybody is different. We know everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. We know how much they're suffering with their condition is different. Plus the fact that cannabis is different no matter where you're buying it. It has to be personalized for them in order for them to have a really excellent experience. One of my clients said, hiring Andrea is one of the best things I've done for myself. By having me fill out information ahead of time, she was able to make our phone call very productive. She's extremely knowledgeable, and our time was focused on my questions and highly individualized. That's exactly how I wanted her to feel, was like, this, I'm diving into how cannabis can work for you specifically. So they fill out the form, they know what they're getting, and then we make the call. I do my consultations on the phone because I find being on Zoom, I can't concentrate as much if I'm like trying to make eye contact, but you can do however you want. I also have done many in-person consultations. When you get on, remember your goal. That's why it's written at the top of my template. You're here to help them have a better experience in their life, to guide them along that path. I always try to focus on one condition. This is good for a couple of reasons. One, if, for example, a client's coming to you with anxiety and sleep problems and lower back pain, I'll have them think about which one is the most pressing, which one's bothering you the most. Let's say that that's back pain, for example. If we can get their back pain under control, it's likely that they're going to sleep better and hopefully have less anxiety. And it's not just because of their back pain, it's because they're consuming cannabinoids that also happen to work for these conditions. So focusing on one condition can really help the other conditions, even though you weren't trying to. Focusing on one condition also helps you like kind of narrow in on what the research says about that and how to proceed. Then you're going to introduce yourself and disclaim again. You're going to outline the call with them so that they know exactly what's happening. I say, okay, we're going to be on the phone for like 30 or 40 minutes. I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions. You don't have to take any notes. I'm going to take all the notes. And then when we're done with the call, I'm going to send you your guide tomorrow. So set them up to feel good about the call. And then you're going to start asking questions and you're going to start writing like crazy. So let's get into some of these questions. And of course, all of these are on the templates that we give you in the program so that it's a guide for you. Okay. What are you trying to achieve by working with cannabis? That's where we dive into this initial goal, and let's stick with one. How long has the condition been going on? This is really important. If they're suffering with chronic pain that they've had for the past 6 months or 8 years, it is going to take longer for them to feel a significant amount of relief for most people than somebody who suffers from occasional migraines and wants to find a specific type of edible that will help with that. So that one's really important. You want to know what else they've tried. Are you the last resort? Have they seen multiple other practitioners? Have they tried cannabis in the past multiple times? Like, what's going on? What have you tried? And again, what's your experience with the plant? For most of my clients, the experience is I tried it in high school. It made me hella anxious and I never wanted to try it again. And now I'm so scared to try it. So finding out, are you scared of the plant? Did you have a bad experience? Have you been using this plant for a long time, but now you want to change it up so that you're using it in a different way? Those are all important. You're going to want to know how they would like to ideally consume it. I have never yet had a client who said, hey, Andrea, I really want you to teach me how to smoke joints. Almost everyone I talk to, they're like, I don't care what I do, but I do not want to smoke. And for many clients, they won't understand that there is a variety of different ways that maybe they've never heard of. Have they heard of a dry herb vape? Have they ever tried a suppository or a tea or a cream for their hands? So doing some guiding here. When they tell you, yeah, I think I'd really like to take it as an edible, that's where you can ask, have you tried these other things? Have you heard of them? You're going to need to know what their access looks like. A lot of people don't know this. They know that cannabis is legal in their state, but they have no idea like where they're going to go get it or what the best product is. And you're going to have to do some research when you get off the call. So you're going to want to know, do you have a preferred dispensary? How far away are you willing to go? Your search. Budget is a really big concern for lots of people, and that can really impact what type of cannabis you tell them that you recommend, because some forms of cannabis are much more economical than others. And a lot of people don't know about the less expensive options. I always ask clients, especially towards the end of the call, like, are you worried about something? Is anything coming up for you right now that you want to talk about? And a lot of them do have the stigma fear and the like, what if my husband doesn't like it fear? So just being able to talk through that. I have started asking my clients this in the past year, like, how simple do you need this to be? If I tell you to take some cannabis oil and put some salve on and try CBG and CBN, I want to know, is that overwhelming for you? Are you the kind of person who will remember to take your oil every day? Or should we give it to you in a capsule? How can I set this up so that you're actually going to do it? And then I always ask them if they're going to track too, because we as cannabis coaches desperately want our clients to track so that they know what's happening and we know what's happening. But some of my clients are very honest and they say, no, I will not. And I understand that. And depending on you as a coach, I don't ask them which kind of support works best, but maybe you could say, like, would you prefer text, or would you prefer emails, or would you prefer a short phone call? That can be helpful as well. Okay, so now we've had our initial call or our initial forms that they fill out. Then I ask them a whole bunch of questions. And now we're getting just to the end of the call before we hang up. I always try to recap exactly what I've heard. So I know that you've been suffering with chronic pain in your back for the last 6 months, and you have tried this, and this for it. Today, we talked about you trying these things for it. Does that sound right? Like, did I miss anything? I want to make sure that I've totally understood everything that they've said. And then I walk them through what I call a day in the life. So, a day in the life of Joan, for example, and I'll explain to them. So, you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to take your CBD oil and you're going to try it with food for a week, and you're going to try it without food for a week. And then at 2 o'clock, you're going to take another dose of your CBD oil. Make sure that you track it. And before you go to bed, you're going to take a drop of your THC oil to see if that'll help. Does this all sound good? Do you have any questions about this process? You want them to really kind of understand what they're going to be doing when they get off the phone with you, so that when they get their cannabis product, they can get right into it and feel good about it. You're going to answer any questions that they have at the end of the call. And then you're going to explain how they receive support going forward. So in my case, they get a series of automated emails once a week saying, hey, check in with me. How are you doing? And each of those emails includes a link to book their 20-minute follow-up call. So explain what they're going to get after the call. And then you have some work to do because you're going to create a guide. And they desperately appreciate having a guide, having somebody to hold their hand, and also having like a written guide to look back at, to review. Sometimes all of these terms, everything that we're talking about, is very new for them. One of my clients said, Andrea is extremely patient and thorough. She answered all my questions and she kindly broke down each process that I needed help understanding. She returns emails in a timely fashion. She researched my local dispensaries in order to make pertinent and helpful recommendations based on the resources available to me. I've had a very positive outcome from following her suggestions. I remember this client so well because she really, really wanted to learn how to make her own oil. It was important to her to be able to keep things really cost effective. And we had to go through each step of the process because it was brand new to her. So having you there to guide them is so impactful for people. Okay, so when you create the cannabis guide that we give them at the end, obviously, depending on the condition that the person is coming to you with, that's going to determine where you're going to go in the huge plethora of cannabis products and doses and cannabinoids that you have. And so in the Cannabis Institute's templates, we have 14 ones that are done for you. So for example, if you have clients coming to you with anxiety or pain or sleep or skin conditions, we have guides that are already done. And these are based on the research that doctors and researchers are putting out there as far as what is the right cannabinoid combination to start with for this condition or this condition or this condition. So those 14 done for you guides are like a really great stepping stone. You're going to take what you learned on the call. And that's why asking all of those really guided questions are so important, because all of that information is going to help you figure out what cannabinoids should they be trying, how are they going to take it, what doses might they want to start with, etc. So you kind of like plug in everything that you did on the call. You'll have to do some researching of dispensaries or purchasing options. Many cannabis coaches work with cannabis companies that provide access to all 50 states, for example. And so that's a really excellent option for clients that and trust the product that you're recommending to them. And sometimes I just like Google or I like head on to the local dispensary's website and spend some time there, look at the products, go look up the brands, see about testing. You have to do your due diligence, and including that into the guide. And then if the condition that you're working with doesn't fall under one of those 14 guides, we teach you how to go and find the research and find the resources that you need in order to make a personalized guide for conditions that come up for you. We have a really excellent resource in the class. This guide, it's very important that you mind your language again, right? Like you're putting into writing, I think that you should try this product, and you want to make very clear that this is like, I'm an educator and a coach doing my research, and I'm presenting you with my education and research. This is a testimonial that I got about just like a little bit of help. So after receiving the guide and starting a cannabis regime, I'm pleased to say that I'm 2 months seizure free. Actually, this is the same woman I told you I was going to come back to. The one who had a whole bunch of stigma, and she lives in my town, and she was really worried about it, and she wanted something cost effective. So she came to me. She came to me with fibromyalgia and migraine issues, but she also had a seizure condition that was preventing her from driving. She lost her driver's license. And so we started with fibro and migraines, but fibro and migraines, something that works really well for both of those is CBD. And so when she started taking CBD, she started eliminating her seizures. And so this was, like kind of like a bonus. This is one of those times where we're going to work on this condition, and it just happened to help with the seizures as well. Her migraines are few and far between. And if that's not amazing enough, my fibromyalgia flare-ups are greatly reduced. Less pain, more energy, great sleep, improved mood, all positives. And then after this, she got her driver's license back, and now she drives by my house every once in a while and just lays on the horn because she's so damn happy that CBD has given her her actual life back. Oh, that just gave me tingles. Yeah, it's very rewarding work. Okay, after you're done talking to your client, creating the guide, I give my guides to my clients usually within 24 hours, and then you're going to schedule your follow-up. So like I said, send out scheduled emails once a week asking them to check in with me. We have that template in the class. And all those emails, like I said, provide them instructions on how to book another call with me. And then importantly, at the end, I ask them, hey, did this work for you? Are you happy? Do you want to write me a testimonial that I will later plug into a slideshow that I will share with people online? So that's all done for you as well.
I want to say a couple things because you touched on this really briefly, but I wanted to show a little bit of how these are so customizable to you and your current skill set, your current passions. So, for example, Andrea, she's a teacher. She's going to do things by the book. She's going to write the guide. She's going to have all the things. And from my coaching practice, sometimes I was doing guided meditations and visualizations. Sometimes we were doing mindset work. Sometimes we were, working on relational dynamics, right? It depends on what your current skill set and toolkit is. And what's so great about that is that as you learn more tools or as you gather more tools, in whatever direction you want to go in, because we've had students go in so many directions from ceremonial use to getting advanced degrees, right? Going into PT and doing other things in the medical field, that they've been able to fold this work into that. And so while we have a framework for this and it's super helpful, like when I started, I didn't have guides. Andrea made guides. And that was one of the most helpful things because clients do love that tactile. I got this. This is personalized to me. Instead of being like, okay, take notes. I'm going to rapid fire you for 20 minutes. And so it's really great to have those tools. But if you do more holistic work, or if you want to incorporate mindfulness, or if you want to incorporate your herbalism, for example, or someone mentioned growing, if you want to incorporate your knowledge about growing and give that to clients who are interested to that and have the capability of doing that, it's absolutely possible in this same framework. And we do show you how to do that as well in the program.
I'm really glad you said that. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about how to attract new clients. I didn't know how to attract clients when I graduated from this program. I had never considered doing this kind of work. And the truth is that the way that you attract people to you is by being out there in the world. I personally am more of a generalist. So we have students who go both ways. I think it's probably because I'm a teacher and I'm like, hey, newbies to cannabis, come here. I got to tell you some things. Being a generalist is great for the newbie users, or like I said, for those people who suffer from common complaints that we know from so much research can be helped quickly and relatively easily with cannabis. So if that's what you want to do, is help people like coming into the cannabis world, generalism is the way for you. You will be doing more research, right? You're not going to be only in the anxiety world. So if somebody comes to you with a condition that you haven't worked with before, you do have to do more research. I find that research fascinating and fun, but it's not for everybody. And for some people, you already know the people that you are dying to teach this to or dying to share this with, middle-aged women, or we have lots of people who like to work with moms. We have people who like and need to work with so many different communities of people. And that can be awesome because you can dive really deep into the research and deeply understand the condition in cannabis and how it's working for that, become like a true expert. And it allows you to go out, and for a lot of people it's being online and saying like, hey mama, are you struggling with this and this? Like, I see you, I used to be like that, and then I tried this beautiful plant, and let me help you. It allows you to speak directly to people and what their pain point is when you're kind of niching down. And we have this huge community of graduates. We now have the expert to send people to for, are you a family with children with autism? We know the guy. Are you struggling with a cancer diagnosis? We know the ladies. We have people who have niche down and specialized. And so if the client isn't for you, you can say, oh, but I know who would be somebody great to work with.
And also that's the benefit of niching down.
Yes.
I'm always a proponent for niching down
Yeah.
because then you get to become that general or that specialist that people, when as soon as someone says midlife, women in midlife, I think Kim Sarson's. As soon as someone says autism, kids with autism, I think PJ. Like, it makes it so much easier for you as a practitioner and for the people who know you and the people in this community to be able to know you. And I think it's helpful because you can get press easier. People really want to talk to you because you're like, I do this specific thing. And so I'm always a proponent for specialists. I understand the generalists, but Andrew is team generalist and I'm team specialist. It's like we're like USA and Canada because there's so much benefit to it. And we need more people who are niching down in these specific things so we can say, okay, go to Lauren. She's got this covered.
Beautiful. Whatever you do, the way to get clients to you is to get out there and start talking about it. And I know that sounds really, really hard to some people on this call right now, like to go out and talk to a stranger, your sister, your kid's teacher, whoever it is, about cannabis can sound overwhelming and super scary. I totally had that. I almost refused to do this work because I was so scared of what people would think about me. Again, when it was legal in my country, two things helped me. One, I have said for a long time now that I feel like I'm working for this plant. Like, even if I don't want to talk about it because I'm nervous, I have to let other people know that this plant can be so helpful. It actually saved my life. And if I shut up about it, I can't do that. The plant is like, hey, you get out there and say stuff. So that was really helpful, that I felt really pushed by it. So part of it was that like the plant made me do it. And part of it was that we have in the Cannabis Institute a mindset curriculum. And the mindset is that part of you that's coming up, and you have the imposter syndrome, like, who am I to be able to talk to people about cannabis? Like, why would they listen to me? Or the critter brain in your head, which says like, oh, you can't do this, other people are better than you. We all have these thoughts in our heads. And Corinne saw these thoughts coming up for people in the program, and she was like, oh, hell no, I'm going to teach you really helpful, really powerful mindset exercises so that when those thoughts come up, you can recognize them and work through them and still go out and do the thing. I know this sounds hard, but we do give you strategies on how to make it easier so that you can be out there. And then you get to go out and you get to be the bright light, right? You're shining out there in the darkness of stigma and misinformation, and people will find you. Go out there, speak your truth about the plant, be excited about it, share some personal stories. That's how you're going to find your clients, generalist or specialist, is being out there and talking to everybody about it. It's a double bonus because you going out and talking to everybody about it is the best way to practice talking about cannabis. So for some people, it's just the actual act of talking about it they're going to need practice with. So get out there and get shining, people, because this work changes lives. Like this one. Andrea is an excellent cannabis coach. I'm so glad I chose to work with her to use cannabis oil for my chronic insomnia. It was too confusing and scary to go it alone. She was a great cheerleader and gave me excellent guidance and information. I'm happy to say I'm sleeping again after years of insomnia. I love cannabis. If you need someone to help you through the confusing and often misunderstood world of cannabis, Andrea is your girl. I remember this girl too. She was young. I think she was like 25, and she had to stop working because her insomnia was so bad that she couldn't go to work anymore. And this had been happening, I think, for 7 years for her. And it took us a while. It took us like right till the end of the 2 months for her to land at a dose and a regimen and a ratio of cannabinoids that helped put her to sleep, but then keep her asleep. And her life changed in those 8 weeks that I was working with her. She was able to start working again because she was sleeping again. And that's powerful. This is important work that we're doing out here. And I think you probably, if you're not already a student on our call, you want to be here with us doing this thing. So let me tell you about the Cannabis Coach and Educator program. I'm going to list off some of the things that we have in there and then tell you how to get in with us in our February cohort. So let's go. So first of all, you get taught all about the science of how and why this plant works so that you feel deeply confident in going out and talking about it. We don't just focus on the science and the nerdy and the nitty gritty. We also focus on how are you going to talk about this plant to other people so that they understand and can make changes in their lives. We have this full mindset curriculum so that you don't get stuck on what Josh Jones is going to say about it when he hears that you're talking about cannabis, and so that you can go out there and coach all those people and help them. We have several different pathways for you to choose with all the templates and the worksheets and the guides and everything that you need. If you want to do this work more as a cannabis educator, where instead of working one-to-one or one to small group, you're spreading your information to the world. We give you information on how to make this into a business by writing about cannabis, teaching about cannabis, videoing or podcasting about cannabis, doing retreats, teaching workshops. So we give you lots of different resources to get out there in your community, online, and everywhere that you can go to teach about it. That's called our Cannabis Educator portion of the program. And then you also get this 2-session cannabis coaching package that we've been talking about for this time. You also get lessons on how to actually start your business, like the nuts and bolts of getting a business up and running. We talked to you about affiliate marketing. We dive deep on legalities and ethics, like we talked about. We teach you how to find quality research on the plant, and there's so much more in there. We also have an excellent online community. Wave if you're already one of our awesome students, because we hang out and have a great time in there. We come on live calls once or twice a month so that our students can get their questions answered and so that we can meet and network and work with each other. And we also have an online space, which is popping right now. And lifetime post-grad support. So once you're a graduate with us, we're all out there doing this work together and sharing. And finally, we have a money back guarantee. So if you are out there doing this work in the world and you are struggling to make back the investment that you put into this class, we will work with you and help you figure this out until you do make your investment back. So thanks for letting me tell you about that. CT, do you want to share why this says only till Friday? Are you okay? Are you going to do this?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay. All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Okay, you got this.
I might cry. Might cry. So those of you who have been here since the beginning, my name is Corinne Tobias, or who haven't been here since the beginning, my name is Corinne Tobias, and I founded this institute in 2018. And in December of last year, I stepped down as program director and put Andrea Maharg in charge. She's been doing such an incredible job running this program. And in 2026, in the beginning of 2026, I went on to social media in a bigger way and grew very fast there. And I have a ton of projects on my plate this year. And when Andrea and I sat down to talk about the future of CCI and whether or not we do another cohort, because it's a question we get every time we do a cohort, I couldn't come up with an answer of when that would be possible. And it became clear to me that it was time for me to step down fully from this position. And this is going to be my last cohort ever with a new group of students. So I'm going to be if you're a student already, I'm going to be with you until the end. And I will be with this cohort until the end. So the full 6 months. And in this 6 months, I want to give it my all. We trained 700 coaches at this point. It's just like, it blows my mind. I really, truly feel like I've done what I set out to do in the beginning. And I do believe that this organization stands on its own without me, and that it's really time for me to be focusing on my personal practice. Right? I'm getting licensed in Colorado for psychedelic facilitation. I have 3 books coming out. I'm world schooling a 10-year-old full time, and I can't do it all as much as I would love to. And I will still be here as a member of this community, but this is going to be my last cohort in this world. So I hope that if you've been waiting to join us, that you decide now is the time, because I want you to do it with me. I want to do it together. And this is going to be the last opportunity for, again, if you want to create this kind of stuff, for me to have my eyeballs, my 13 years of experience, to be walking this journey with you every step of the way, to be helping you overcome mindset stuff. And again, I'm giving you the best of the best that we've learned in the past 8 years. I'm not leaving anything out. This is going to be the best cohort that we've ever had. I'm going to make sure of it. And I'm thrilled for those of you who are ready to start. And we have a coupon code that you can use if you're ready to join now. And we close enrollment on Friday night. And I'm like shaking right now, and I like feel very emotional about it when I think about all of the lives that have been touched this program. And I know it will continue to touch so many more lives and reach so many more people. And I know this ripple is going to continue to go on without me being here. But I hope if you're feeling it, that you join us this time, because it's going to be fire. Okay, I did it.
You did.
Okay, we have questions.
Okay, go.
So someone asked about pricing for programs, and we have an entire module dedicated to pricing, because it is such an individual thing depending on the offer that you're going to make. You're specifically talking about one-to-one coaching. There is a range that we give you, and we also give mindset work around that range. We want you to be able to charge your value and what you're giving, and also be able to say your price without going, oh, it's going to be $250 for these sessions. We want you to be able to communicate that with them. And also, if there's stuff that comes up for you around money, I know it did for me, I know it did for Andrea. We want you to be able to move through that, so you feel so good about what you're offering and what you're charging for your services. So that's a great question.
Perfect question. Ben asks, how does this work apply to the situation, for example, in Germany, where legality is different and standardized medical products are hard to get? Yeah, every country is different. In no country that we know of is it illegal to share what you've learned about this plant with other people. Educating about cannabis is not illegal anywhere that we have found. So long as you're doing it, again, above board with the law and above board as far as ethics go. Individual coaching in countries where cannabis is either not legally available or very hard to get, that does get harder, right? Like I wouldn't work with somebody who was in a country where it was illegal, because I wouldn't want to be facilitating them getting in trouble or something. And for coaches and educators who are working in those places, and we have quite a few people from around the world. We have, like, I don't know, probably 20 countries represented. and in most of those places, it's obviously not legal. They are doing the work of cannabis education, and they're out there talking about this in a general way, explaining to people how the plant works in a very general way, and they are becoming the expert in their community. A lot of these people are also getting involved with government efforts in order to decriminalize or legalize the plant. And they are like pioneers, right? Forging a path for people, because it is harder in places where it's not as accessible or as legal. And in that case, being an educator until it starts to change is a beautiful way to help as many people as you can learn about it.
But I want to speak to this in the United States because I just had a message like, oh, I live in a prohibition state. I can't do this. Now, there aren't many prohibition states left, which is again crazy thinking about when we first started versus today. I mean, almost every state has medical or recreational laws of some degree. And all 50 states currently, at least for the next year and a half, have access to hemp products that you can buy online. Many of them contain THCA, which many of us know once you heat that up, it's the same molecule as the ones that you'd buy in dispensaries. Now, that is going to shift, but even right now, having that access is clutch. And we talk a lot about also being advocates for keeping that open, keeping that access available. So if you do live in a prohibition state, you don't have to stop at the education part. You can help people get access to sun-grown, regenerative farm, amazing cannabis all around the United States.
Corey asked if we ever work with Mara Gordon or Ann Zeldas to help diagnose patients. I don't know about Mara Gordon, but Ann Zeldas is a place where you can go and get a cannabis recommendation. And I do. I personally work with Vera Heal in the States, and I have another a medical cannabis provider that I work with in Canada to help people who want or need a recommendation or prescription.
Andrea's being so modest. She doesn't just work with Vera Heal, she trained their physicians, by the way. So you have a physician training educator in your midst. All the doctors that go through Vera Heal that make those recommendations, they were educated by Andrea. So no big deal, no big deal.
Somebody asked, do you ever suggest a client to grow their own? Absolutely. If it is legal and available for you, please, for the love of all things holy, grow your own medicine. It is a truly beautiful experience, and such a great way to fall even more deeply in love with the plant and to grow exactly what you need, right? Everybody benefits from something different. So yeah, for sure.
We have a student that has tried twice. She's in Australia and it's their second go, and she's got this little plant. I've never seen someone so proud of anything in my entire life. She like brings it in the college. She's like, look, really?
All right. Any more questions about this presentation?
We got a question from Amanda. This is a great one. She said she's creating a session for patients with rheumatologists. How can we use science to support? What facts would you share? We do have a tool within the program. Amanda, you should have access to it called Cannakeys. It is incredible. It's one of our favorite resources. It's really cool. It is a dream come true, and it's created by Upa Bleshing. For those of you who ever seen the Cannabis Health Index, which was like the biggest book on cannabis research at the time, and he got tired of updating it. And so what he decided to do is create this database that is sectioned off by cannabinoid, by body system, or by condition. And it's the best tool because when you look at, say, rheumatoid arthritis, you can go through and you can click on that just as a condition. It'll give an overview of what's been studied. You get a visual snapshot of like, has it been studied with THC or CBD or Andrew's just gonna show you, and I am thrilled because for those of you who are joining the program, having access to this and learning how to plug this into your coaching and making guides. Again, this is stuff we dreamed of when I first started doing this. It just didn't exist. You were going through PubMed and trying to figure it all out. And now we have this. So it is incredibly thorough and also easy to read.
That's the part I love the most about it, is if you're not a science nerd, that they do such a good job of breaking down individual studies and the whole condition and giving you a synopsis. And they only include high quality research into their database. That's a wonderful service. And I actually have started putting little snippets or screenshots of, just so you know, there's been 43 studies on this, or there's been 5 clinical trials, so that the clients that I'm working with can see, like, oh my gosh, there's actually been quite a bit of research on this, and we do have dosing information, et cetera.
Great questions coming in. Corey asked if we train for cancer treatment and other major diseases using cannabis. So we do have a cancer protocol written by cancer thriver Elise, and she was a cannabis coach who was trained with us a few years ago. And a lot of it is our considerations about working within the medication people are taking. We also have, there's a book that we recommend called The Cannabis Cancer Connection,
Yeah.
and it is incredible. It is really lovely, and it's a very short read. So we recommend that as well for working with clients who have a cancer diagnosis, because there's so many different types of cancer, right? That is a very big word. And some types of cancer don't respond well specifically to some cannabinoids, and some do. And we do know a lot more than we used to. And it's a wonderful resource.
Great question.
Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to unmute and say goodbye to everyone, we appreciate you so, so much for your time and energy and for your love for this plant. Whatever you do today, please go out and share something about how cannabis is healthy today. One thing that you say can make a huge impact on someone's life. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.